Now we will go to the second talk. So James Lee, who already talked before, who works for China Mobile Technology, and in his function as the OSC's integration and test project technical lead, he will now talk on OSC working practices, development process, and roadmap.
Thank you, Robert. So I hope I didn't misunderstand what this topic asks me to speak about. So my focus is really like all the real meat and cheese on how you can get dirty on OSC projects, how you can contribute to the ORAN software community, and all pretty much all the things you need to know. And certainly in the latter part, we will talk about certain pieces we wanted to have in our roadmap. So first is like because there was question about like how you can contribute, right? So like in my previous talk, I mentioned that for our community, we definitely would like to promote to have more contribution from companies, from individuals as well. So if you are familiar or you are already part of a Linux Foundation project, maybe some of the process you are quite familiar with anyway. So the first thing is you need a Linux Foundation ID, LFID. But to contribute, you have to sign up with a contribute license agreement. It can be two possibilities. One is a corporate CLA, another one would be an individual CLA. So mostly what we saw is from a corporate CLA, which means for a given company, there's a enterprise CLA manager, a dedicated one. So from him or her, you will be add, each person who will be contribute to the corporate CLA. But for this given person who will contribute to the first time, they will be asked to confirm that they are part of this company CLA. So for the individual CLA, there's a different individual CLA that can be signed, and Linux Foundation is using a so-called easy CLA process to manage the overall CLA. So it means definitely you have to have a CLA signed for contribution. Then the next thing is that also I showed in my previous presentation, today we have about 114 repositories and about 18 projects. So it means when you contribute to a given code repository. And the Linux Foundation, the OSC code are hosted by Linux Foundation, and we are using the Jared like the toolings from them. And well, to create or archiving a repository requires a proposal and approval process from our TOC process. So it means, say for example, AI/ML framework is the newest project in OSC, right? So once AI/ML project created, they actually requested 8 or 9 repositories for different functionalities like your training hosts, your model management, and a bunch of other things as well. So it means for any creation or archive, it means if you see your existing code repository becomes kind of idle and you don't want to keep it going, you can request to archive the repository as well. And both of this requires a proposal. You just, I will talk about a little bit about how you can start a proposal to the TOC, and the TOC will have all the TOC member vote to get approval for that. And then I think it's quite strict, like who will be able to commit to a given repository, as well as who are the approving authority to the code contribution as well. So this is done by, it's called the info.yaml file. So this file is at the top level of each code repository. and it defines all the key personnels like review and merge. And I gave an example here for the integration test, which is the IT test repository. So as the project lead, I'm the like so I'm like have the kind of final approving power to approve a given code review and also merge to the code base. But you could see a bunch of things listed out. We have the Jira to check all the changes. We have a mailing list. The real-time discussion, it does work, but we don't use it. If you go there, freenode.net using this hashtag, it's still there, but really not many people are using, so it's impractical to actually use a real-time discussion right now with many of the existing repository. And also there's some committers like who are the people that can commit code to the repository, and it shows like their ID, Linux Foundation ID, their corresponding work email, and the company is attached to, and also there's a time zone, so like David Liu is in Beijing, so right now maybe it's not a good time to reach out to him. Right. The last thing is about like the approval, because I was replacing our previous PTLs, so it shows like this approval was published on this given date from our TOC. There is a reference to the TOC vote. Then the next thing would be, if you're entitled to contribute to the code, what is the process there, right? So, well, you can check out if you need to commit back, then you have to check out a repository using either HTTPS or SSH. But once you check out all the corresponding, the review process is pretty much very standard through the Git process. So once you generate a code review package, then you can use, from the command line, it shows a given link to the code review package you just generated. Then you can use the web UI to specify like who you want the reviewers to be, and eventually you have to go like review +2, and also you have to have the verification passed that before you can merge the code, right? That's the pretty much very standard one, but for each individual OSC project, they may have their own rules as well. For example, like our near real-time RIC project, they have certain unit test code coverage requirement. So especially if you are delivering its so-called a large or extra large commit, say if it's more than 200 lines of code in your code review, then you have to add a certain unit test. Make sure your newly added code is covered sufficiently by the code coverage requirement. And because our repository is hosted by Linux Foundation, so there is existing CI/CD setup from the Linux Foundation. So it means, once the repository is set up, along the way, you also set up your CI/CD process, like how you build, how you deploy, and certainly, if you have unit and a feature testing code as well, you wanted to have them included in your code repositories CI/CD process as well. But this only works for a single code repository. So for example, if you are deploying a near real-time RIC platform, which consists of like 10 plus microservices, right? Then this CI/CD doesn't include like the coverage of all the related microservices. And this is what we are trying to build into OSC today. And in the previous talk, we really admire what OAI already have, and we are striving for to get the process, CI/CD process, to have a broader coverage as well. Very quickly about our release timeline, because we are fixed 6 months release cycle. So typically, this is the release timeline for our iRelease, starting from the beginning of July towards the end of this year. So typically, the first month when we release publish the last release, at the same time, there's going to be around 1 month time frame for a maintenance or a defect release cycle. Not necessarily it has to be for all the OSC project, but usually some of them need to go through this maintenance phase. At the same time, there's a lot of overlap in like a feature planning at the same time, but afterwards, typically we have 4 dev sprints, each consists of like 3 weeks for all the code development, and in between there would be other, the demo and other test planning as well. So overall, we try to cover everything within a 6 month cycle. And towards the end, typically the Linux Foundation will help us to scan the code to make sure there is no security hole or any other license violations. We have a very formal release checklist. So you would be able to see like in terms of operation, dev, documentation, license, and security, the most burdens actually fall on the PTLs of each project. That's naturally, right? But the thing is, yeah, we do ask you to provide the documentation, and there is a documentation process in place. So that means, especially when you create a new repo, right, for a new service or a new feature, you wanted to have at least some basic documentation there. So other people who wanted to use your code knows how to deploy. Yeah, we have open labs, and right now we have 2 kind of possible access, because the AT&T lab in New Jersey is the only one right now provide a broad lab access, and this is the requirement. I don't go into the details, but to be part of request the lab access, you have to go with a company or corporate CLA, because otherwise it's difficult to validate, right? If you are an individual contributor, right? You wanted to make sure, people who has the lab access follow the rules, follow all the code of conduct. And another thing is we have the powder testbed at University of Utah set up an umbrella project for us. Basically, this is like an umbrella for the overall community. It means if you are individuals that wanted to have access to the powder test lab, then based on what project you're contributing to, you reach out to the corresponding project PTL, then through them, we should be able to approve your request, and you should be given certain credentials that can be used. See, the good part is like, say, if you have the access, right now we have 2 major ones. One is for the integration test, and the second one is used by the infrastructure under the user of John Zhang. So you will be able to planting your SSTs to different profiles for easy access. And I think it's a very good complementary for our testing need today using Powder. Some other additional logistics, and we have TOC, we have RSEC meetings. Those are the major technical or kind of organizational oversight body, and we have regular weekly meetings The RSEC meetings actually rotate in 2 different time frame to accommodate, Europe as well as in Asia. So different, like one is 6 p.m. Pacific time, another one is 5 a.m. Pacific time. So on the Wednesdays, actually rotates with the focus. One is on RSEC and another one is on SMO. So it means like SMO project meeting will bi-weekly. And similarly, it's also true like AIML and the RIG APP and the RIG platform, they naturally bound together. They also hold bi-weekly project meetings to talk about planning, dev process, all the issues, and schedule demos as well. Our non-real-time RIG, OAM, SIM, and ONAP joint meetings is weekly. And so this is a very good example of how today, different open source community already work together. 3, you can use 3 internal mailing list, and you're welcome to subscribe to just with a Linux Foundation ID. So the main is mostly for the announcement. Like if you are subscribed to main, you will receive a lot of meeting reminders. Like next 30 minutes, some meeting gonna start. And the discuss mailing list is the one if you really wanted to get your hands dirty, because once you deploy, it's very common you run into certain technical issues. That is the mailing list that you wanted to shoot your questions, right? To write to the technical community discussions, and our PTLs will closely monitor and respond in a very timely manner. The TOC is for our TOC use, like I mentioned earlier, like say, for example, you wanted to have a repo creation or archive, because typically the TOC meeting has a quite fixed agenda, and if you wanted to add additional meeting agenda, shoot an email before the meeting starts on Thursday to be included as part of the TOC meeting agenda. There's another one which is right now for internal discussion among the PTLs. Well, last not the least is our roadmap. It's quite general here. What I would say is earlier there was discussion like you wanted to know today OSC as a reference implementation of the ORAN specification, what exactly in our code are implemented. So we wanted to align closely with ORAN various working groups depending on which, the project you are with, and also with the minimal viable package, the committee for the feature package, which is like a top-down approach, like for the future use case, we try to align better with the work groups and with the MVPC. So starting from the H release, we started to publish a table like for each of the existing project, like what specific ORAN specification it implements. Well, more details will be added, but in general, say for example, the near real-time RIG is conforming to the E2AP 2.0, something like that. The second piece is about we try to have more external collaborations with other open source, and we have OAI here, we have Nephew, and it's in our near future roadmap, and we hope when we work together, we can generate synergy. We do not reinvent the wheel, and make sure things can work better in our own interest as well. Something to consider is an end-to-end call session with OSC components. It's not in place today. So once you have end-to-end call session in place, then we should be able to, just like OAI today, to establish the full CI/CD/CT pipeline. So it means we can really plug in, or even into the future, like plug and play different pieces from vendors, for the real interoperability testing. Well, lab connection I already mentioned, and we would like to kind of expand our inference at the same time to make better use of our labs for the community use as well. I think that concludes. The very last one, the links, pretty much 4 big pieces. The wiki in general, pretty much the general information you will need to know, and all the project management through Jira, and the code through Jared, and we also have the documentation that related to each of the projects. That's about it. Thank you.